Good morning. It's September 15th. Nope, 16th. And what a couple of days. I just finished editing and it's uploading now my vlog from literally September 12th. So today's Friday and that would have been Monday. In the evening and overnight on Monday, I started feeling some cramping. And it was like super mild. It was like, oh, it almost feels like a period cramp, but not even that painful. So I was like, okay, I'll just, keep an eye on that. Like, it's kind of weird, and maybe it's Braxton Hicks because I had been noticing over the past week or two probably, like when my belly is tightening and having Braxton Hicks contractions. So I thought, okay, just like kind of maybe a side effect because it's not painful and real contractions are painful. So overnight I had a terrible sleep and the cramping started to feel more like period cramps, and it started from my back and moved forward, and it was just like, it wasn't super painful. It was more uncomfortable, but it was starting to like ramp up. And I got up 2 or 3 times throughout the night to go pee like I normally do. But when I did, I noticed I had some fluid that just came out of me, which was weird. So I got a little sketched out about that, and then eventually it was just I couldn't sleep anymore. It was so uncomfortable, and at around like just before 5 a.m., I think like 4:45, I got up and came downstairs and brought a blanket down here and thought, maybe if I just like lay on the couch and sit a little bit upright, I'll feel a little better, because I worked at 7 a.m. And it just like, it didn't feel right to me. So I thought, you know what? This is why my OB gave me the number to early labor and assessment. So I called the number and I told them what was going on. And I was like, I don't really know what's going on. I just want to make sure because it's a 24-hour line. The lady said, yeah, you should come in. And that was the start of everything. It was a little bit scary. I had to go up and tell Josh that I had to call in sick to work and I had to go to the hospital. He was like, what? Like, what's going on? He knew I was having cramping, but I didn't even tell him that I was also leaking fluids because he was half asleep, and I was like, it's the cramping, they want me to go in. So I drove to the hospital. They got me in right away to be assessed. I explained the whole situation, and I let Josh know that they were taking me in to be assessed, and they were concerned about the fluid leaking and stuff like that. And he was like, I didn't even know that was happening. Like, he got off work, got some stuff together, and came to the hospital with me. And they tested the fluid that was leaking from me, and it didn't come back positive for amniotic fluid. But they did a bunch of other tests that there was like a bunch of different swabs that I think they would normally do at your 35-week OB appointment, but she did them there with the speculum, and that was not fun. And what else did she do? Check my cervix. So my cervix was closed when I came in. She took all the swabs. The one that tested, so there was another swab. She tested earlier for amniotic fluid, and then at this point with a swab, she tested for amniotic fluid, came back negative. And another swab that came back was whether or not I'll go into labor in the next week. I don't know how that works, but it came back positive. The lady was basically like, yeah, these are very like not finicky, but very sensitive tests, and it can come back positive 3/4 of the time and not actually mean that you're going to go into labor in the next week. So it's not very accurate. I don't know why the fuck it's that inaccurate, but that was like a flag to them. And then A little while later, they checked my cervix again, and I was at 1 centimeter. So that was really scary. I remember just laying there, and she checked, and she looked over at the other nurse, and she said 1 centimeter. And I looked at her and I said, dilated? What do you mean 1 centimeter? So that was scary. And I think that is when they admitted me officially. So I still have my hospital band on, but I only just got home last night. Anyways, so they admitted us, and that's when I took like a clip on my phone, I think. Yeah, I think I took the clip right after I found out it was 1 centimeter dilated. It is currently September the 13th at 11:25 a.m. I'm in the hospital. I started to have mild cramps in my back a day or two ago. They progressively got worse, and then I started leaking fluid. So I checked into early labor, and now we're waiting. I've had tests done. The baby's doing okay, but the little shit wants to come out early. And I'm 1 centimeter dilated. It's over a month. 6 weeks early. And Josh is getting me Subway because I'm starving. And then I took another clip when we were in the room that we were staying in. Okay. Where's the time? Uh-oh. It is now 7:34 p.m. We have been admitted. They wanted to continue monitoring, even though 3 hours after I was measured at 1 centimeter, I was still measured at 1 centimeter. They decided to keep me. So we've got this big room to ourselves because of COVID, which is nice. I just heard a dog barking, so that's weird, but other than leaking profusely, I've been fine. And Josh is out right now trying to get some snacks. But I had a meal, so that's great. I just really want you to stay in here for at least 3 more weeks. And then it will be full term. We can only hope. So essentially, it was so scary. And I'm trying to think of like the timeline of events. We got up to the room. They kept an eye on me. They monitored the baby. The baby was doing great. She's moving. Her heart rate's great. She's loving her life, but trying to get out at the same time. Yeah, hold on. Okay. So, yeah, we stayed in the hotel room. Josh went and got like a bag of stuff for me, checked on Percy, all that good stuff. We had to let our families know what was going on. Yeah, it was basically just like monitoring me. We stayed overnight. So overnight, like, my cramping went away, which was relieving. And in the morning, I let them know. I was like, yeah, my cramping went away. I'm feeling good. Like, I just really want to go home. Because at this point, we're not going into labor, but we're staying in this hospital room. We've got nothing prepared because I had literally turned 34 weeks the day of being admitted, and was supposed to have my my 34-week OB appointment that day, which obviously didn't happen. It was just like 6 weeks early. Like, that is, I'm not the kind of person that's unprepared. I've been preparing, but we had just met our doula the day before. We haven't gone over our birth plan. That's still over on the coffee table that I have to go through. Just so many things that aren't prepared. We didn't have the car seat in the car. We didn't have a hospital bag packed because I was just starting to think about that. All of those things were really like overwhelming to me, and just being in the hospital setting and stuck there, knowing that I have so much to do and knowing that I would be a lot less stressed because I wasn't having any of like the cramping or anything. Like, obviously if I was having those kinds of things, I would want to be there and be monitored, but because everything was looking fine and I could still move around, I was still allowed to like do things. It was just really hard on me to be stuck in a hospital room, and I would just feel a lot more comfortable at home. Going into preterm labor, or like knowing that you're going to go into preterm labor and anticipating that, is very stressful and scary. I was trying to advocate for myself in that way. So they decided to take another test for my amniotic fluid, and this swab was a different swab, and it was like, it was different from the first one that I had, basically. But I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'm confident that everything's fine because I haven't had my cramps and everything looks good and whatever. So this OB and this resident come in to do the swab. It feels very rushed to me because for all of the other swabs, in order to have a good angle for the least amount of TMI, basically the least amount of discomfort and safest way to do it would to be have me laying flat and like in a certain position and having my hands under my back. Like, there's a certain way to tilt up your pelvis for there to be testing to be done. They didn't do any of that. She basically sat down and just went right in for it, which none of the other testing was done like that. It was, you lay back, you breathe, you do all of like the positioning and things, and they tell you what they're doing as they're doing it and before they put it in and like all that stuff. Yeah, so none of that happened, and it was extremely painful. Like, I don't like having a speculum. Nobody does. It's very uncomfortable, but it's not painful. This didn't even involve a speculum, so why? There was no reason for it to be that painful, and it was very concerning. And there ended up being blood on it. And I haven't bled this entire pregnancy, and so that was so scary to see. She was like, were you bleeding before this? And I was like, no. And then anyways, afterwards, when I went to use the bathroom, it hurt so much that I cried, and I was still bleeding, and I was bleeding throughout that day, the rest of the day. And that experience was so traumatic for me. So having that traumatic experience, I was really upset about it. Every time that resident who did the test came in, I would try and tell her, like, this isn't normal for me to be bleeding, and the blood is what caused the test to come back positive for amniotic fluid. And it was just so frustrating. Like, I cried a lot. Like, I was so distraught about this whole situation because we were about to go home. Like, they were pretty happy with how I was doing, and they just wanted to do that one test to confirm, and then they said that they might send me home. And then to have that done improperly, to have her then ask for a urine test because she said that this could be a sign of a UTI and that's probably why it burns. Like, she was literally gaslighting me the whole time. And I was trying to tell her, like, it was painful. It wasn't uncomfortable, because she kept saying, yeah, they can be uncomfortable, and, you know, it's sensitive because you've been having all of these other tests done. And I was like, none of the other ones made me bleed. Like, you can't just... Anyways, She gaslit the fuck out of me. And then, whatever. The whole day goes by. It's really upsetting. We have to stay another night. I'm so upset about it. But I'm still not having any other symptoms going on. The next day, which would have been yesterday, we get a new resident that comes in, or nurse. I can't remember. There's a whole bunch of different people that come in and out and tell you different things. I'm gonna say that she was the nurse. She came in and she said, like, she listened to me. I told her about the whole situation, about the swab and how upset I was and how I haven't had any of the cramping and I just wanted to go home. So she was very sympathetic about that, and she literally told me that it shouldn't be painful. She said that if it was painful for you and caused that much like distress and bleeding, then it wasn't done properly. So it was really validating to hear, but also at the same time super frustrating because everybody else the day before was just not listening to me. So she let me know that I was going to go in for an ultrasound in the afternoon and check on the baby and see the amniotic fluid to see if there's, like if my water like fully broke, then we're going into labor. I ended up going to that ultrasound, looking at the baby, and they said the amniotic fluid level was completely normal. And they said that the baby is measuring to be in the 96th percentile. So they estimated her at about 6 pounds, 9 ounces. And it was a big relief because as I'm only 34 weeks, that's really concerning, knowing that I'm going to go into preterm labor regardless because I'm dilated and all this crap. Knowing that I'm not going to make it full term, but she's a big baby is a little bit comforting. And the doctor going over the ultrasound was not super concerned about her development. She said that, normally they would try and get me to 36 weeks. The way that she worded it was like, you're not going to make it to 36 weeks. Because after the ultrasound, I had that swab redone that was done improperly the first time because I had stopped bleeding. And she comforted me, and she like acknowledged that it had not been done right the first time and that it was a traumatic experience for me. So she's going to try and be as slow and easy about it as possible. So she did it. They laid me back. They did all of the different things that everybody was doing before. When she did it, I barely even felt it. I didn't even feel discomfort, let alone pain. Like, it boggled my mind how little I felt this one. And so that was a relief, but also extremely frustrating again, because just knowing how much they didn't want to admit that they didn't do it right. Anyways, that one came back positive, and it did not have blood on it. So my water had officially broke. What I have been leaking is amniotic fluid. That's where we're at now. Even though that test came back positive and they told me that my water broke, the OB that was on that day was apparently the only one in the hospital that would have been comfortable letting me go home with a strict set of conditions. Anybody else would have made me stay because I'm 34 weeks. And I'm at like a very high risk for infection, a high risk for like it's a risky business basically. Anyways, so they went over the whole thing with me. They gave me a bunch of forms. They said that I have a extremely low threshold to come back in. And I understood that. I said, like, I will come right back in if literally anything changes. I need to be home to prepare. And I was just feeling really, really claustrophobic there. Yeah, they gave me some medications to start and sent me home yesterday afternoon. So it's been almost 24 hours now that we've been home. I haven't had any of that cramping. However, the antibiotics that they have me on is making me have like poopy stomach cramps, which is not very comfy. It scares me every time because I'm like, oh my God, is this the cramping starting again? But it doesn't feel the same. And I'm also having some loose bowel movements, which is a side effect of this medication. It's kind of hard on your stomach. So I've been trying to space it out with my food really well and always having snacks on hand and try not to let myself get too hungry. and just taking it easy. So I'm not allowed really out. Like, they encourage kind of going about your daily routine and walking around, but because I'm at such a high risk for infection and complications, and I just do not want to push myself at all, I can't even go out into stores. So that's what Josh is doing for me right now. He's going out to get some last minute things that we might need, just kind of to get out of the house because we've both been cooped up in that hospital room. I am now hanging out. That's my hospital bag. That bag has all the baby stuff in it. Josh installed the car seat base into the car and put the stroller in there, and that's the car seat ready to go in. That's where we're at. Very long-winded, but I think that this is something that, I don't know, not that I would want to remember a terrible traumatic experience, but this is the birth story, and it's happening, and we're gonna have a baby in our home in less than 2 weeks. Most likely much less than 2 weeks. And it's very, very difficult to wrap our heads around. We have just been, I don't even know how to describe it. It's crazy to me, but we're excited. I am extremely, extremely nervous for labor and delivery because I haven't had the chance to have any classes. My prenatal classes were also supposed to start the day that I was admitted to the hospital. So I feel unprepared, and that gives me a lot of anxiety because I have anxiety and I would feel anxious about it regardless. But not being prepared on top of that is very scary. So yeah, I am just trying to chill out, just distract myself at home and I've been asking some people that have given birth before, what are some recommendations you have about pain management and stuff, because I just don't know what to expect, especially with a preterm labor. Apparently those can go a lot differently, and there's just so many factors that I haven't had the chance to even think about, and I just want her to be okay, and I want to not have a super painful experience. Anyways, Josh is texting me because he's looking for stuff and I'm trying to guide him. Oh, Glow Halloween pop-up shop. That's what we're trying to do. I am monitoring the baby's kicks. I've got to write that in my chart. And I'm taking my temperature all the time because I can't get above a certain temperature. I finished setting up her bassinet. There's just so many things. I guess we're ready. I guess we're ready for her. So we're gonna meet her soon. Oh my god. It's September 18th, Sunday, and we are still pregnant. Yeah, since we got home and after being admitted and being in the hospital, it's been all right. I've been on antibiotics that are making me have diarrhea and just not feel the best, which is the most common side effect of it, but it still sucks. I've been completely drained, which I was completely drained before all of this, just coming to the end of pregnancy, so just not feeling great. I kind of have a headache right now. I think I need to get a lot more liquids in me, which is really difficult. I've just been losing it all, so I'm trying to chug water and juice when I can, but I just can't keep up with it. Yesterday, around supper time yesterday, I decided that I wanted to go in and get checked again because I thought that I had decreased movements, and I was just worried in general. I was just feeling like every little thing I was paranoid about, and I wanted some peace of mind. Just want to make sure this baby's okay. They told me to go in for the tiniest thing, basically, so I did. We ended up being there for 4 or 5 hours, which was hard because it was at a period where I hadn't eaten, and you're not allowed to eat when you first go in just in case something happens. You have to go into surgery, but basically They checked the baby, and of course she was moving like nobody's business as soon as I got there, which great relief. So she was doing fine. I don't know if they ended up checking my pee. I gave them my pee, but they never told me there was results. So I'm assuming there was nothing there. Yeah, they just kind of, the doctor ended up coming in and being like, we would like to admit you, but we wouldn't be admitting you to the early labor unit. You'd go to like the normal floor of the hospital to be admitted. And I was like, obviously you want to admit me just to like monitor me, but it's not that serious, because I was admitted to early labor before. We had our own room and stuff, and we were admitted for that. I think they just wanted to play it safe. So he kind of gave us the option. He said that we strongly recommend that you be admitted. That he explained that that was based on decreased fetal movements, and I felt that I was just going in being extra cautious. Like I hadn't, like she could have been moving around, but I just didn't notice it or whatever. Like there could have been a lot of factors, and it also wasn't for like a 24-hour period where I hadn't felt her move. It was just like in the morning and afternoon, and I was like, I don't think I've felt her move as much as I have before, so that's why I went in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I actually had decreased fetal movements, and especially because she was looking absolutely fine when they checked her out. I felt like I should just come home, because today's Sunday and tomorrow morning I have an appointment with the OB that's gonna check me out fully again. So I felt like it was the best idea to just come home and be home, relax, not be all stressed out in a hospital, especially in like a ward. That would suck. The doctor he was really good about explaining a lot of things too, because I didn't really understand what the premature rupture was all about. Like when I Google it, it's very rare. It only happens to like 3% of pregnancies before 37 weeks, I think. Just the way that my situation was, I don't know, it was weird, and I feel like maybe they tried to explain it to me before, but I was too overwhelmed. Yeah, I asked him about, how long can I be leaking my water before, I need to come in, or it's serious, or like what are all the risk factors here? I asked the nurse and the doctor this, and they both explained it like you can have like a tiny little rupture that could be caused by, contractions or like different things, and it just gradually slowly leaks, but the baby's constantly like drinking and peeing and making amniotic fluid. So mama's calling. It's 3:07 p.m. on September 21st. And I just had my IV because my blood pressure was too high, so they gave me a bunch of medication, and then it got too low. Why does my face look so fucked right now? What? Anyways, I have the shakes and I can't make them go away. And I am next to go down to give birth. Josh is going to get me some Subway so I can eat before I go down. And they couldn't get an IV in my hand because it's way too swollen. I just really hope that this is quick and easy. What are you doing? Taking a video of you.
My glasses.
Get a little room tour action going on. It's all my drugs. You were already smiling. Uh-oh. Gotta stay still.
Blood pressure?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I have the flash on.
Okay.
It's 2:56 p.m. on September 22nd, 2022. And we're 8 centimeters. And I'm currently getting drugs.
Lots of drugs, thank God.
Yeah, thank God is right.
Little
And
Munchkin will be here soon.
yeah, quite soon it seems like. Over there with the show the little hat that we picked out for her.
This is where she will go when she's born. Emma's hat she picked out.
So
Here's the bathroom. Many times there. Emma will stay here for 24 hours after birth, just to make sure everything goes well.
because she's premature.
Premature and the blood pressure issues Emma's been having and swelling.
Got ogre hands.
Yeah. Let's take a look at those beautiful hands. All jabbed up. And some really nice feet that we should remember. Anything else?
No.